Hello and welcome back to Let's Scare Adam, the show where I make Adam watch scary movies, which he is not a big fan of. I'm your host, Josh. You can follow me on Letterboxd at JLuke. This is my guest, as always, Adam. You can follow him at Adam Werner,
Or
or
King
it's down
Frogby.
below. King Frogby, that's the one. It's the first time I've screwed that up. So this week we checked out Color Out of Space, which is a 2019 horror film directed by Richard Stanley and starring Nicolas Cage. It is based off a H.P. Lovecraft story, and it follows a family in a remote part of New England who have a meteorite crash into their front yard, and the meteorite seems to infect both the place and the family with what can only be described as an otherworldly color hue or a color out of space, as the movie so eloquently puts it. What do we think, Adam?
I actually really enjoyed this film. It wasn't super scary. I think that's like probably why I enjoyed it a lot more. It just had a pretty like interesting premise. It's like cinematically, I think that's where it stood out. Man, this has such style to it.
Yes, it does.
And I'm such a sucker for that beautiful like pink color. It is so
Oh, yeah.
vibrant and it just stands out.
Oh, yes.
And then, like, from a story perspective, it was okay. It landed a little bit flat. I wanted more out of it. I wanted it to go somewhere else, I think. I just don't like. So,
I can see where you're coming from, and I think that may be rooted in the fact that the original short story was written in, and I've just looked it up, 1927. So this
wow.
was a yeah. So the fact that a story like this could still be adapted to something as good as this. I mean, I know there are some stories that, like say, Little Women and stuff, that just are timeless, but something like this, you don't see old horror getting adapted as much because the things that were scared people back then don't translate to what scare people now. And the fact that they were able to make something so, I suppose H.P. Lovecraft is one examples where it can sort of translate because he has all the like the monsters and everything and the big like Cthulhu and stuff like that, as you've probably heard of. And but this specifically, to use the villain being what is essentially a color, it's phenomenal. And back to what you said about the color palette as such, that's a thing we're seeing a lot in horror these days. Like heaps is this neon sort of saturated. I know Joel likes to use this term a lot. It's dread based sort of horror where I don't. This is more of your body horror story, but the color adds a certain level of tension that you don't get otherwise, and it's one that I'm a massive fan of. And that may be why I like this one quite a lot, is because any sort of horror movie that does the neon shaded hue or something like that. Because Mandy's another one, also starring Nicolas Cage. I watched a couple the other week called VFW, and one was called Bliss.
I
They all
think
just have this.
what I've noticed is Elijah Wood seems to be the producer on lots of these, and I noticed that
Yep.
like he's also produced Transcendence, that video game horror game, and like he seems to have his toe in a lot of like these sorts of more creative. Like I know he was a producer on Mandy as well.
Yep. I know there was a. I'll have to look it up. There was a horror film that he was in quite a while ago, maybe now,
Okay.
that was straight to video or straight to VOD, whatever it would have been back then, and he's known for being one of the more quite fucked ones recently.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
and he plays the villain. I'm trying to remember what it is. Um, is it Come to? It might be called Come to Daddy. Oh, actually, no, that's not the one. But there's one. Oh, Maniac. It's called Maniac,
Okay. I think I've
and
heard of that for sure.
that's supposed to be from 2012, a while ago now. But
Can
for
we
someone of Elijah Wood status to take a role like that, he clearly likes the genre.
Well, this is one of those things that we're seeing a lot more of, like with like Robert Patterson. You see Daniel Radcliffe and also Elijah Wood. Like they've made all the money they need to make for their entire lives in those first like franchised films. So they're willing to take more risks and like try out these sorts of like interesting styled films with more like depth.
And it's good to see Elijah Wood putting that money that he made, making your hey, I love Lord of the Rings as much as anyone, but your box office smashes, and he's putting back and giving people the indie movies that he probably enjoys going out and seeing.
And giving Nick Cage more business because like God knows he needs it.
And
Sorry, can
let's
we?
be honest, he's giving Nicolas Cage the best roles of his life because
Oh,
this and
100%.
Mandy's the best thing he's done in years.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so definitely Nicolas Cage's best work over the last few years. And I think when you see a movie like this or like Mandy, you're noticing that because we've had so many eras of Nicolas Cage, and at this point you can tell that writers are almost writing roles with him in mind to play to his strengths. Because a lot Nicolas Cage just there was an old college humor skit, and I don't know if you ever saw it, where it's about Nicolas Cage's agent and
Okay.
he's getting the worst scripts ever. Like Hitler's a good guy, and Nicolas Cage is like, "I'll do it," and he's just taking every single role available. And yeah, it's great that he puts in these wild, crazy, stupid performances. But the movies have to at least have something to carry them because even if you have the best Nicolas Cage wacky performance of all time, if there's the movie's so terrible, they're not fun to watch
Yeah,
because we've
that's true.
seen him do it so many times.
But
And
like,
it's this one specifically. I don't know what you'll think, but the Nicolas Cage voice, he has it for like the last 45 minutes of the movie,
it's
and it's just the best.
yeah. Also, like, yeah, because he's so memeable, right? Like, anytime
Mhm.
Nick Cage is in a movie now, like, I'm always like, oh, what's he doing? Like, what's this? And like, because he's picked up Mandy and now this, and both of them were like pretty enjoyable films for the most part. Like, he definitely plays Nick Cage, but like,
Well, I think in Mandy he played it a little bit more seriously, only slightly though, but that's because what I think Mandy's a superior movie for a couple of reasons, but it has a lot darker of a tone, like an overtone.
yeah,
Whereas, so where he plays it like brazy, but sort of still slightly serious. At the end of probably for the last hour of this movie, I think Richard Stanley directed was like, I want 150% pure, uncut
Nick
Nicolas
Cage.
Cage. Give me everything you've got. Because as soon as the daughter goes up to the meteorite and says something, and he goes off on her, just from then on, it's just straight up. He's got that voice where he sounds like he's snarling at the same time, and everything he's just taking the piss. And I'm
He's
like,
such a dick to his daughter and to his family in this film. Like, and like, he's like, "What do you want me to do? I can't go anywhere. The car's shut down." Like, there's, I think that like that was another thing that sort of like knocked it down a few notches. Was your wife is fucking tripping tits. No attempt to like leave the property just on foot. Like,
well, I think at that point he was infected with something
okay, so he's a bit
because
psycho by that point.
yeah, because because as soon as he says he smells the smell of the hospital where his thing died, he says that very early. So from then on, it's all downhill
Downhill.
mentally. So that's where I thought this came from. And I haven't even mentioned the practical effects in this movie are awesome.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Straight out of the 80s in the best possible way.
So like the bit that I thought was the like most messed up and like fucked up was definitely when the mother and the kid merge. That was like really like sick and twisted.
And
I'm
then
just
there's the big dog. Was it the big thing out in
the
or was it
llamas,
the
alpacas, the alpacas.
Llamas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
The animal of the future, as Nicolas Cage describes it.
yeah, yeah. And
Um,
like, man,
but
he was
yeah,
obsessed with these alpacas. That was
he
so
was.
good. He's just like, I can't believe you left the alpacas out again. And you're just like, I don't know. There's something about the way he delivers these lines. Phenomenal.
You have to see it. Like, it is just picture in your brain, if anyone's listening, the most memeable Nicolas Cage accent, and he's doing it for the last hour of this movie constantly.
Yep.
It is, that's all it is, and it's great. I felt this movie was 20 minutes too long, and it was potentially in the front end and not the back end. Is a weird way to watch a movie, but apart from that, I really enjoyed it. I've watched it a couple of times, and yeah, it's sort of weird to be able to pinpoint sort of where the movie does take too long, and usually it's more in the back end than the front end. But in this case, I felt it was in the front end.
I think that
But
like
apart from that, I've seen this movie a couple of times. I really like it. I'd recommend this and Mandy.
yeah, so I would say that for me the bit that like sort of I didn't really understand is like that whole start bit where she's like standing around like
Yeah.
summoning the demons and stuff, and I was like, where's that gonna come into play? And it never does. Um, so yeah, it like there were definitely like the start was a bit slow. I wanted like more from that. Also, Nick Cage and like the reporter and like the way that he cracks the shits at the reporting screen. I'm like, I don't like you really like you did this to yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I think the thing at the start with the girl doing all the Wiccan sort of stuff may have had something to do with the end, like when she's sort of ascends and the whole thing blows up.
yep.
That's I'm assuming it had something to do with that, but again, this was written in 1927. This short story, so who knows what was going on?
Yeah, like I like this is definitely a movie that I would just check out. I think that like
Yeah,
from style alone and from like if you want to see Nick Cage like uninterrupted meme, like this is the way to, like this is the
this
movie
is
to
the
check
one.
out. Yep.
This is definitely the one.
Yep.
I will say this just before we finish off. New England is the setting for so many horror movies. What is so scary about New England?
I don't know. You know
I've
you know
no.
the states they hate the
I
English people.
yeah. Well, in England. Nah, it's in America, and I think actually there might be some truth to the fact that Stephen King's from New England. Edgar Allan Poe was also from New England. H.P. Lovecraft might have been from New England. Maybe they just all got together and were like, "This play, maybe New England is actually haunted. Let's that has to be what the case. No one goes to New England because it's just fucked. There's shit going on everywhere.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I will also mention is that I've heard that there's that new Lovecraft HBO show. Or is it HBO? It's the HP Lovecraft like universe, and apparently
Love.
Lovecraft
It's called
Country.
Lovecraft County. Oh, Lovecraft Country. Yep. Produced
Country.
by Jordan Peele.
Yes. So I've heard that if you watch Color Out of Space, obviously like made by the same writer, this is a really good foundation to see if like you'll be interested in Lovecraft Country.
I haven't watched it yet, but apparently it is great.
That's what I've
Real
heard as
good.
well. That's what I've heard as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe we'll check that out at some point and put up a review on the
Mm-hmm.
website. Yeah, all right. I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah. What are we doing next time, Adam? What do you reckon?
Next time we're going to do Green Room. Josh recommended this as a terrifying or pretty good horror movie.
It's got its moments. It definitely has its moments. It's a very tense time.
So yeah,
Looking forward to it.
we'll check that out. Thanks so much for watching this episode of
Tune in if you want to hear us talk about Patrick Stewart being a villain.
Yeah, exactly. So thanks so much for watching this episode of Let's Scare Adam. You can find us on Letterboxd, at JLuke for Josh, at King Frogby for myself. We will continue with these watch-alongs. You can also listen to our recordings of Film School Podcast every single Wednesday. And we will also have new cool film reviews where we talk about the latest films that come out each and every week. Thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.